good evening, and good afternoon. I hope you guys been having a fantastic week. I know I have. And for this week, we have a very special guest. This person is an audio creator for the audio drama world, and they are here to answer all of our questions as we get to know them and their show. So, without any more ado, let's go ahead. Please introduce yourself and tell us your name and the show or shows that you are a part of.
Hey, hi, and hello. My name is Naomi Richards, and I am the co-creator of the Morbid Forest.
That's amazing. And for those of you wondering if that show sounds familiar, we actually had Sean, the other co-creator, here probably about a few weeks ago. So if you definitely like this interview, definitely check out the other interview. You're really going to love it, and you're going to really get into the Morbid Forest, which is a fantastic show. So Naomi, what made you get into the world of audio dramas?
It's kind of funny because I never thought I would get into the world of audio drama. Granted, like 10 to 15 years ago, I really started listening to a lot of audio dramas, especially like my number one, it will always be the No Sleep podcast. And just at work, having to do a lot of hours. And when you work alone a lot, you need something to occupy your mind. And so I just kind of got into audios, just listening to them being at work. And it was really Sean who kind of dragged me into this world that I didn't think I would ever be a part of.
That's amazing. Do you remember, was the No Sleep podcast the first audio drama you ever listened to, or was that one of the few?
I think it was the actual first, my inaugural audio drama that I just was like, I love this storytelling aspect. So
that's amazing. And I've told Sean this, and you probably heard it before, but the first audio drama that I got into was through an I Love Lucy DVD thing. So it's amazing.
I love that.
Yeah, it's one of those weird stories where it's like, how? I was like, well, through the DVD settings and all that stuff. But yeah, no, just audio dramas being a thing since 100 years ago. And some of the stories back then, for being quite honestly in high quality for the time.
Yeah.
It's just amazing and how it's evolved throughout the years.
Exactly. Especially when you think about those radio dramas where people were doing live sound effects in the studios, coconut clappers for hooves and everything. It's just crazy how much this genre has evolved over the years.
Especially with no editing back then. Everything was just, if it's messed up, it's messed up. You just got to go with the flow.
Exactly.
So I understand you're a co-creator. What's it like being a co-creator of a show?
It's interesting. I'm always kind of figure myself kind of as a control freak. So it's interesting having to partner with somebody else and make sure that I'm allowing to make sure their voices are heard and I'm not overshadowing them, because I tend to be a force to be reckoned with. I always say poor Sean, that poor man has to put up with me. I'm sure he probably feels the other way around in some circumstances, but honestly, it was really refreshing having him draw me into this whole project, because he vehemently, adamantly, every single day is my top advocator. He is you are an amazing writer. I love you as a voice actor. I couldn't do without you. And it's not that I need the validation. It's that I have someone who is in my corner saying, you got this, we've got this. So that's kind of what it's like having a co-creator. It's having someone else be your cheerleader.
That's amazing. So how did you guys meet? I know Sean is in New York, and he had mentioned before that you're in California. Did you guys meet online or something like that?
Yeah, we met in a Facebook group. We were also in another group prior to this that was a podcast focus group. And he and I kind of like the same shows, have the same suggestions, and we kind of spitballed back and forth really in the early days of our friendship that we both enjoyed writing. So he would share some stuff with me and vice versa. And this was kind of really when I was just beginning to share my writing with other people, having the confidence to do that. And that's kind of how our friendship started. And then from there, he asked if I would create another podcast group with him to showcase horror shows and other types of shows. And then he drew me in. He was the slow draw in.
Gotcha. And have you guys ever met in person or not yet?
No, not yet. It's actually, it's really funny. I feel like I almost made him cry with this, but he loves my grandfather very much. My grandpa is like a super huge supporter of our show and the both of us and everything. He listens to every single episode. He reads every single story I write. We did one of his stories one season, and I got married last year, and my grandfather... Oh, thank you. My grandpa at the wedding, at one point, he's like, "Where's Sean? I want to meet him in person now." And I was like, oh my God, that is so sweet. Unfortunately, he's not here, but that would have been our one chance that we would have met in person.
Well, I really hope you guys have other chances to meet and all that stuff, because I've actually met one of my, this is not podcast at all, but this is more gaming. I actually met one of my gaming buddies that I never knew or met at all. It was just through the voice. So when I met him for the first time, it was definitely something. And it's funny because none of us called each other by our actual name. We called each other by our gamer tags. So it made for very interesting, as
right.
My gamer tag at the time was Dark Hunter. His was oh my God, I forgot his gamer tag, but anyway, yeah, we just kept calling each other, and the looks people gave us was just amazing.
I hope that you guys keep that tradition alive. Like, if you see each other in the future, just gamer tags only. That's kind of great.
Oh, yeah. Well, at this point, I call him by his real name now. But if I meet any of my other gaming friends that I don't know their real names, I'll definitely just stick to the gamer tags. It just makes for wonderful explanations.
Right.
So I understand that, so since you guys are both co-creators and you guys make your storylines, what type of process do you guys have for making a final decision, especially if you both disagree on something?
Let's see. I think I hate to say it like this. Like I said, I'm a force to be reckoned with. And if I don't like something, I literally tell Sean, no, we're not doing that. Like, flat-faced, like, it's not happening. And then he pouts. He's like, really? And I said, no, we're not doing that. And then he pouts, and then he's like, fine. So honestly, I think in our relationship dynamic, I hate to say it, that I have like the last final say in things. But like I said, I always like hear him out for every story and everything that he wants to do. I spitball with him on my own stories on my end. And in terms of like coming up with stories for the season and everything, we usually have like a meeting towards the beginning-ish of each season where we talk about what we want to see on each season, where we want to go with it, what kind of stories we want to do. And so that way we can kind of not... I don't want to say the word, go over each other's genres. Like, if he does a vampire story, I'm probably not also going to write one as well, you know? So it's a lot of compromise and a lot of me saying no.
So was there ever a time where, like, you said no, but after, like, begging and begging, you were like, fine, we'll do it?
Ooh, I think the Dear Diary Part 2 story, that was originally a no, and then Sean wore me down, and so we decided that I would take the place of like the original narrator, and he would write the second part of it, and I would kind of help him craft the story where it needed it, and we kind of did it. So that one was a no at first.
Gotcha. So how close is he on breaking you when it comes to the musical episode? Because he has mentioned that before.
No, not you two. He is not close, not at all. Sean, you are not having a musical episode.
Listen, I edit my own show, so I understand the trial and error of editing and making sure, like, oh my God, did I breathe on this part? Did something happen where I was editing it? So I understand that a musical episode would be insane to edit, but on the other hand, story-wise, I think it'd not be a bad idea.
I do see I 100,000% see the merit of doing a musical. I think it would be kind of cool, a musical horror, you know. I don't fashion myself as a singer very much, so I'm kind of afraid of that aspect of like having to hear back my terrible yowls. But I think what I'm most afraid of, honestly, is just editing the musicality aspect of it, because to do a musical episode, I'd want it to be original music and everything else, and I am not a composer and I don't delve in that world. I would probably have to definitely reach out to somebody in order to do something like that.
So you're saying there's a chance?
Oh, biscuits.
Well, Sean, if you're listening, hey, there's a chance. But anyway, when making the Morbid Forest, did you guys have like a lot of trial and error when creating the show, or did you already have like a solid idea that both of you agreed on?
No, there was so much trial and error, especially when it comes to the audio bits. Lots and lots of trial and error. The stories were also a lot of trial and error. Because originally, Sean brought me on as a voice actor, not as a writer or as a co-creator. So I didn't really have that much skin in the game at the very, very beginning. And so it was a lot of trial and error in like what my personal home studio needed to look like, what type of mics I needed to get, like what did and didn't work and didn't sound good. Because sometimes I would think it sounded really good and then I would listen to it in my car or somewhere else in headphones. I'm like, oh my God, that's so bad. I need to go back and fix all of that. And yeah, just lots of trial and error, honestly.
So was Morbid Forest your first like audio drama show that you written for or you were involved in, or was there any other shows?
No, Morbid Forest is my baby, and it's the first show I've ever partaken in.
Hey, that's amazing. I mean, it's your first show, and considering how popular it is, you guys are doing a fantastic job.
I will always be amazed at how many listeners we have, not just within like our own states, but within our home country of the US, and then like outside of the US, like how many people that we have that listen to our show from all over the world. It boggles my mind. And whenever we do like a thank you or anything else, like at the end of the episode, I don't think people understand the gravity of how thankful we are that they listen to us, that they take the time to download our episodes and hear our stories and hear our writing. We'll always forever be grateful for every single listener that we have.
So, Naomi, I understand that you are the tech wizard of the two, especially with all the editing comments you've been making. Did you go to school to learn how to do all this tech stuff? Or did you, like me, learn by trial by fire and all that stuff?
I don't know if you want to call it trial by fire or trial by asteroid hitting me, whatever you want to call it, because that's definitely the route that I have taken. I did not go to school for this. I do have a bachelor's of science in anthropology, completely opposite of what I do with the show. So lots of YouTube videos, lots of making friends with sound engineers and, you know, garnering the courage to ask them questions on like what I should or shouldn't do for things, how things should sound, sending them samples of stuff. So it's definitely have been a huge, huge learning curve. I kind of feel like the tail end of season 3 and then our most recent season 4, I don't know, something just clicked. Like the magic just kind of happened. And all of a sudden I'm like, I get what I'm doing. Everything makes sense. I know how to fix things. I know how to add things. I know how to create a better sound design. So definitely took a little bit of learning.
Definitely understandable. I mean, what's best to learn than doing it yourself, making the mistakes? I mean, honestly, that's how I learned, and I'm definitely better for it. And those free YouTube videos really, really helped.
Exactly.
And
they really do help.
Oh yeah, and the one thing I hate is like I use Audacity for my editing, and I hate when it updates and it changes what exactly is where, and then I have to refigure everything out. Like I remember the last time
I've heard nothing but negative things about Audacity updates.
Yeah, I mean, some of the stuff is good. Like now they have this new cloud thing. But the last time it updated, like I had to do a new audio setup. I had to do something different because the way it analyzed audio was different. So I couldn't use my same old methods. It was just an entire mess. And thankfully, within an hour, someone already had a YouTube video up explaining all of that away.
Of course.
So
that sounds awful.
Oh, it is. So I understand that you're both a writer and the editor. Do you enjoy writing more, or do you enjoy doing the tech stuff more?
I definitely enjoy writing a whole lot more than I do editing. I have spent a lot of times screaming at my computer, yelling at it, like honed in on just like one specific section that I just feel like I can't get right. Whereas like writing, I'm kind of like a visual writer, more or less. That's the best way I can explain it. I see the story like a movie in my head. So I'll see certain parts of it or certain aspects. So it's so much easier for me to write things down because I'm seeing it in my like head going on. Whereas like when I'm editing, yeah, sure, I may see everything that I'm putting in, but it doesn't always cooperate with what I want it to do. Words cooperate with what I want.
Definitely understandable. So, what was the most difficult episode that you had to edit, and what was the easiest episode you had to edit?
I think the most difficult episode was this last season, the improper dosage episode, just because I think it was either the number one or number two story that we had with the most voice actors in it, and it had the most cues that were written into the story that I did everything in my power to adhere to and like really make come alive for that author. And it was just hard. Just there was just so much, and the story was just so long, and it felt like I was editing it forever.
How many voice actors did you guys have for that episode?
I think it ended up being like 15-ish or so.
15?
It's a lot.
That's like basically a movie. Wow.
It was the guy who did the story for us. He actually ended up like reaching out to us and asking if we would be interested in having his story on like our show. And I'm like, yeah, of course. And then I see his like accolades, and I'm like, you have an IMBD. Like, you have like produced things for movies. Like, why are you over here asking to be on your show? I was so flabbergasted. I was honored to have him on our show. So yeah, it was basically a movie. We basically did a movie. And that's Adam McDaniel that is the author of that episode.
Gotcha. Do you remember what movies he produced?
I don't. I'd have to look him up again. But yeah, he mostly does like a lot of stuff in Hollywood. Yeah. So he was, his story, like the minute that we both read it, we're like, mouths to the floor. Yes, we want to do this. There's no question. And then the more I got into it, I'm like, I'm so intimidated by this story, and I want to make it so right for him.
Hey, if you're already getting like the attention of like a producer who does Hollywood movies, who knows? Maybe Netflix will be calling you guys up wanting to do like an anthology series.
That would be insane.
So if that was the hardest, what was the easiest episode that you had to edit?
Oh, the absolute easiest. I feel like that is harder. I would say maybe Good Boy, which was also a recent episode because it was one of my stories. And it's only like maybe 12 or 15 minutes long. So it's already short. I don't have a lot to do with it, but because of the way that I wrote the story, I didn't want to give a lot away to the audience. So there isn't that much audio, like tricks and things, in it. So it was mostly like music, the voice actors, because there's only like really 4 voice actors in it, and it's one main one throughout the entire story. So there wasn't a lot for me to kind of do. I did that one really fast.
Well, that's good. I mean, that's amazing that you were like, 12 minutes. I got this. I already know what everything is going to be. Bada bing, bada boom. That's how you know you've gotten that good of a tech wizard. Like, you're automatically like, okay, I already know how this is going to go.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I have arrived.
Exactly.
I still will always say I have lots to learn, but I feel I definitely have a handle on it.
There you go. And now with that handle, are you planning on like doing your own audio drama in the future, like on your own, or is Morbid Forest you're gonna just continue with that and ride that till the sunset?
I kind of feel, as of right now, I kind of feel like I want to ride that into the sunset. Like, I'm all for writing for other shows, being a voice actor on other shows. I've kind of dabbled a little bit if I'm going to go into like the audiobook world, and that's like completely separate. That's reading books and not having to do any type of sound effects with it. So that would kind of be the only thing that I would consider doing that's outside of Morbid Forest, like audio wise, would be audiobooks. But no, I think right now I'm happy and I'm committed to this show.
That's amazing. And what continues to keep you passionate about the medium and everything about audio dramas?
I think for me, it's one being able to like have this safe space that I can tell my stories and people love and appreciate them. That's one thing. The second big thing about this media is the indie audio drama community. There are some extremely talented, really amazing people, and every single one of them will be your cheerleader. They will, pick you up when you've had a bad day or had some drama. And it's really nice to be a part of this community of people who all want to see you succeed. And it's very much the mentality of, if my show succeeds, that means they succeeded. If one of their shows makes it big and they succeed, that means I succeeded in helping them do that. So I think that's a very large part in what keeps me kind of going in this medium.
That's amazing. And when it comes to the Morbid Forest, I understand that you guys dabble in horror mostly, but do you have like a favorite genre that you want to get into that's different than the horror genre?
I don't think it would be different. It's more, I'm definitely a psychological thriller person. I always love movies that make you think. I also love comedy. So anytime I get to kind of like mix a bit of comedy in with like my horror stories or my thriller stories, I'm always like super happy about that. So yeah, just being able to blend. I like blending things.
Nice. And what is your favorite story of the Morbid Forest? Like your favorite episode? And is it the same one you wrote?
I have two, and they are ones that I wrote. And it's not because I wrote them, but it's because of how they turned out and how the actors are in that episode. So one is one recent one from our recent series, which is Firefly. And I love that story because I went down a serious rabbit hole of research when it came to the subject matter of that story. I don't want to like give a whole lot away, but it's definitely a time period story, and you can definitely look up all of the women, not all of the women, but what happened to those women who worked in watch factories at that time. And then the second story is where I get to kind of blend, and that one is Employees from Hell. That story was just so much fun to do because it's definitely a horror comedy. I definitely wrote it kind of like The Office feel, and it was just fun to write a bunch of jokes about being an employee of hell.
That sounds like it'd be funny. That I can't wait to get to that episode. I think I'm still on season 1. So when I get to that episode, I'd be like, okay, I am definitely ready for some good comedy, especially office comedy.
Especially office comedy.
Exactly. Like besides The Office, of course, my favorite show is definitely Parks and Rec.
Yes. Love Parks and Rec. And also at the end of that episode, if you go all the way to the end right before the credits, one of the characters who's my best friend in real life, he agreed to be a part of like the show and everything. And now I've really got him hooked. And I got him to rap.
You got him to rap
for the episode. And he's just the sweetest little white boy from Minnesota. And I got him to do a demon rap towards the end of the episode. And I laughed so hard trying to just put that in and edit it. It was just so fun because it's ridiculous. It's stupid. It's terrible. And I love every minute of it. So I hope you're ready for...
Is it unfiltered, or did you put it like through like a demon filter or whatever?
I definitely did a little demon filter on it, which he will forever be mad at me. He like tried to do voices and stuff, and he's always mad that I put that through a filter. And I'm like, well, it wasn't demon enough. That's why.
Yeah. When you think of demon voices, you definitely don't think of Minnesota of all things.
No, you don't.
So I know you probably get this a lot, but how is it? Oh my God, I can't speak today. How easy is it to edit these episodes? Like making the sound effects and putting them into the shows with like sometimes where you have to use voice actors.
I would say it's on a scale of 1 to 10, it's about a 9. Like I said, some episodes are easier than others when there isn't a lot really going on in them. And I know sometimes some people in the audience, they like less, sound effects and things because so they can really focus on the narration. Depending on the type of story it is, I will do less like sound effects in order to kind of like enhance the narration. Sometimes, stories just call for more sound effects. So I try and bring as much kind of like real worldness into it because honestly, that's the type of audio dramas I enjoy when sometimes I'm like, oh shit, is that happening outside my headphones or in my headphones?
Gotcha. So now, since I know you're a writer and an editor, and I already got Sean's answer to this, so I definitely want to hear yours.
Okay.
Do you think writing the show is harder or editing the show is harder?
Definitely editing the show is harder. It's 1,000 times harder. I feel like I spend a lot of time doing both, but I feel like, especially because I'm such a perfectionist, I really want like the best sound to come forward, especially with all that I've learned and everything. And so I really pour over our sound and like how each episode comes out. So it's definitely harder for me.
I definitely agree, and so did Sean. So everyone I've actually interviewed had said editing is harder. So I'm glad that the people who edit are getting the recognition that they deserve because they definitely need it.
They deserve every accolade. They really, really, really do.
Exactly. And then when you do a musical episode, we will definitely praise you.
I'm never gonna live it down. Oh no.
Listen, when Sean mentioned that, I was like, wait a minute, a musical episode? Tell me more. Like, I'm waiting for him to send me like sheets of music. That's how into it I am.
Don't because he'll do a little afternoon gardening session and he'll get all uppity about it and then all of a sudden you'll have sheets of music laying everywhere.
So has he ever written music before or
I don't think he has. It would be like our first go at it if we ever did this.
Gotcha, because I forgot to ask him if he wanted to do it like an opera where there's no talking and there's just constant singing. Or would it be like more like a Glee episode?
You are literally giving that man too much fuel. I'm never going to hear the end of it. I can already hear it now.
All right, so I'll definitely move on to another question. No more fuel for the fire. But anyway, what are some of the people that you've had the pleasure of working with within the world of audio dramas?
I have been very fortunate to work with quite a few individuals. So Landon Wisnat from Auditorium, who's an amazing sound engineer, like nobody's business.
Oh, he's amazing.
I love him to death. We actually did a entry for Tribeca together. Unfortunately, we didn't make it into Tribeca Film Festival. However, we did release it, so he has it on his feed, and we're going to release it on ours for season 5. So that's a little hint of what story you'll see on there.
That's amazing. Wait, you guys did video for that?
No, they have an audio section, actually, an audio story section. Yep, they just recently opened that up, so I decided I wanted to do it, and the only person I thought of that I thought could handle the audio was Landon. And I love him to death, and he killed the story. It makes me cry every time I hear it because he treated it with so much love and care, like nobody's business. So he's definitely someone who I enjoy working with and definitely will be working with in the future. Somebody else who I work with is Ashley McAnally. She's actually an editor for the No Sleep podcast. She also has her own show called It's All in the Cards. And I've done voice work for her, and I'm also her Patreon guest author for her Patreon series, which is The Deck of the Eternals. So that's been a lot of fun because it's just another way for me to get out my writing.
Nice.
And I'm just like enveloped in her world that she's created. I'm just like helping boost it. And it's just been so much fun. And I've learned so much from the process of like having her edit my stories, and Morgan, who also edits my stories. They have taught me so much about my writing and like helped me grow so much. So I appreciate them to the ends of the earth. I've also worked with Wayman Alexander from the Liminal Lands. I've also worked with Joseph, who creates the Wireland Ranch. I'm on, I don't get to say it's a secret anymore anymore because they already like put out the cast and everything. He developed a new show, which is a spinoff of Wireland Ranch, and I am in that show, and it's called The Dope Show. That will be coming in about July. That's going to be a lot of fun. The script was insane for it, and everyone is just going to be mouths to the floor with it. I already know.
Nice.
So those are some people that I've had the amazing opportunity to kind of like work with.
That's amazing. And it's always amazing to work with a bunch of different talents and all that stuff. Like whenever I do these interviews, it's amazing how like talented these people are. And it's just an honor to do these types of interviews, meeting new people and all that stuff.
Yep.
So with, of course, your knowledge of audio dramas, what have been some of your favorite audio drama shows that you've listened to?
So, like I said, no sleep, obviously. Let's see. I also really love, it's new and it just came out. It's The Antiquarium of Sinister Happenings. Love that show. It's so stinking good. It's also an anthology. It is horror, and the sound design is so good. Each story is so good. The concept is really good. I can't praise it enough. I also really like Dark Skies. And that's all done by one person, which will always be insane to me because he has like 4 or 5 different characters and he does the voice work for everybody. He does all the writing. He does all the sound design. He's literally a one-man show.
Gotcha. Like some of actually that you mentioned that there's actually one show that I love that is actually similar to that. Have you ever heard of Malevolent?
Yeah. That's also a good...
Same guy.
Same guy does all the stuff all his own. And I'll always be surprised because at the end of the day, I don't think I would ever consider doing this show without Sean. And I could never be a one-man band.
Definitely understandable. And I mean, some of the ones I've gotten into have definitely become some of my favorites. So like Old Gods of Appalachia is definitely up there. The White Vaults, Campfire Audio Theater is one of my favorites. And
Mortis Maledictum is like a new one that I love. I don't know if you ever heard of them.
No, but I'll definitely be adding that to my list because I'm always loving audio dramas and always looking for more to get into. I mean, one that I recently got into in the past year that was just amazing was a show called Midnight Burger. Have you ever heard of that one?
Midnight Burger is so good.
I wasn't expecting to love it as much as I did when I first listened to it. And whenever they drop, I'm like, first one there. And I hate it because it always takes a month for an episode to come out. And I'm just there. Like they recently, besides, of course, their ongoing series, have a mini series going on in the same feed. And I already listened to it and I loved it. I was just like, they need their own TV show. Like this needs to happen.
I really do think that they do. They're one podcast that I think would translate so well into TV because it is really well written. The actors have so much great chemistry. And like you, I kind of like avoided like listening to for a while. I was like, oh, maybe people are overhyping the show up. And I finally just bit the bullet and listened to it. And I binged all the seasons nonstop.
Same.
Actually, there's another show that they actually suggested, Hanapocalypse, and I started listening to that too, and I love that as well. It's a very interesting take on like zombie apocalypse.
I might have missed that, so I'll definitely take a look at that one.
Yeah, it's definitely one to listen to.
Oh, well, add that another one to the list. So now, what are some of the misconceptions about audio dramas that people might have? Like, is everyone who makes them super rich? Is it like super hard to get into the world of audio dramas?
I think there are so many audio dramas out there. There's so much for people to choose from because just the medium is just really saturated right now. So yes, I do agree. That's not a misconception. It is really hard to get into it and break in, and because you want your audience to be like, well, what's special about you? What makes me want to listen to you? And I do think the other one is that, you know, once we've made it or once we have listeners, that all of a sudden we are just rolling in Patreons and rolling in cash and we can just get any advertisement, and it's not. It's definitely not that. It is really hard to get sponsorships. It's really hard to really have people donate to you and, you know, be your Patreon. Those things are hard because you have to keep them satisfied with what you're doing. And I don't think, another misconception, not everybody records in a closet.
Yeah, I can definitely agree with that. I think my first recording studio was my room. And honestly, my second recording studio is my room. And I literally I think this is not a misconception, but I literally have soundproofing stuff surrounding me at all times because the echo stain is real.
Same.
Like once you hear an echo, you're like, oh, well, there goes everything.
Yep. Exactly. Like you don't know how that is going to bother you until it bothers you. You just hear it and you just cringe.
Exactly. So with that being said, what advice do you have for others wanting to go into the world of audio dramas?
I would definitely, no matter what your idea is to make sure that you put everything behind that idea. Yeah, sure. We'll take horror, for example. You want to create another horror podcast? Well, okay, go full send with it and make sure that it is the most unique horror show that you've ever put together and that it has a vision and a purpose and you don't stray from that. And just have fun with it. Have fun with it. Do your research about it. And yeah. That would be my advice.
That's amazing. And lastly, what can people expect for the upcoming season of the Morbid Forest?
Ooh, okay. What can I tell you that won't give things away? This season, I will say this. This season, we are showcasing a lot more guest writers. So not that Sean and I are taking a step back. We will have a lot of our stories on our Patreon and we'll have a few on our main feed. But this season, we decided to take in a lot of submissions and we got a lot of really amazing submissions and we narrowed them down to a couple stories that we just really wanted to do and also a few returning writers as well. And we really just wanted to give other writers a platform to show their work. Just like, with every rejection you get, it just gets harder and harder to really believe in what you do. And we wanted to be that space to give to somebody who's gotten way too many rejections.
That's amazing. And I know I said that was the last question, but I do have one more, if you don't mind.
No, shoot. What is it?
So for the listeners who want to get their stories out there and they want to use your podcast as a way to do it, where would they be able to submit their stories for you guys to view them? Is there like a certain season or a period where you'll accept and like an off period where you won't?
I wouldn't say that we are closed all the time. We kind of always accept submissions. Right now, we would be closed for our season. We wouldn't be adding anybody else. So if anybody submitted to us right now, we would be putting that story on like season 6, which, we're definitely going to do. We're not stopping anytime soon, people. But you can send any stories to themorbidforest@gmail.com.
Well, listeners, you heard it there. If you have any stories that you want to send in and it's horror or something in the same realm, definitely shoot them an email. And who knows, maybe you'll end up in season 6, season 7, or season 15. Because like they said before, they're going to ride this out to the sunset. Like Thelma and Louise.
Yes, we are. Definitely like Thelma and Louise.
Well, everybody, I want to thank you guys for listening. Naomi, you were amazing. Thank you for coming out and doing this interview. You and Sean have an amazing podcast, and I hope you guys get all the sponsorships, the Patreons you guys deserve.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. This was really a lot of fun.
Well, everybody, I'll see you guys next week. Sayonara, see you later, and have a good one. Goodbye.